Hello, everyone. It is Miss Angela Bennett. Just wanted to touch base with you guys about a couple of things about atoms and ions. All of this you will learn throughout the semester that we have coming up, but there's just a couple things that I wanted to touch base with you about at the very beginning of the term, and it has to do with how we write the symbols for our atoms slash ions, and I will define those two things really, really quickly. And I am going to go fast through that because we're going to spend a lot of time on it in the upcoming weeks. But you kind of need to have a little bit of a grasp just to sort of be more successful at the beginning. All right, so what I mean by symbols, first of all, let's say we have the element and his name is sodium. Then his symbol is Na. Okay, so when I talk about the symbol for an element, I am talking specifically about this. So it's either a 1 or 2 letter notation. There are some that have 3 letters, but that is typically for the ones that have not been named yet, like formally named. They have like a temporary name. But the symbols have 1 or 2 letters. And one of the things that is really important for you to understand is that in this particular aspect of chemistry, you do not have the opportunity to change the type of letter. And by type of letter, I'm referring to it being a capital letter or a lowercase letter. So if you go and look at the periodic table, you'll see some symbols that have single letters like hydrogen or carbon. Those are 2, excuse me. B all by itself is boron. All right, so these are 3 symbols. They're all single letters. They're all capital. They're all capital letters, every single one of them, when it's just a single letter. So that's number 1. If you have some that use 2, like sodium, as an example, you could have Be, which is beryllium, Cl, which is chlorine. That's not an I, that is an L. You have Be, you have Cl, we had Na already. All right, if they are 2 letters, then you notice that the first letter is a capital letter, and then the second letter is a lowercase letter. And that is very, very important that you do not change that. It makes a huge difference. And so to give you an example, you could have this guy or this guy. So I have big C, lowercase o, that's cobalt. That is an element. Big C, big O, that's not an element. That is a molecular compound, and that is called carbon monoxide. So it's really important that you stay true to what your periodic table says. So you do not get to sort of play around with that. You have to make sure that you are writing things exactly as such. And so that's the first thing, is pay attention to the types of letters that you have and what they mean. So capital letters, the first, I said that backwards. No, I didn't say it backwards. I just didn't say it right. All right, so if they are single letters, that's what I wanted to say. If they're single letters, like these guys up here, then it's just a capital letter. Or if the element symbol has 2 letters in it, then the first one is a capital, and then the second one that follows is a lowercase letter. So be real clear about that. You cannot change it. So you cannot write Cl like big C, big L. You cannot write Na, big N, big A. You cannot write beryllium, Be, which is big B, big E. You cannot do this. This is a no, a no, a no. And it is wrong, and it will be marked wrong. Period. It's not up for negotiation. So it's really important that you pay attention to that. And then the other 2 words that I mentioned briefly just at the very beginning were atom versus ion. Okay, so really quick, what does that mean? Atoms are neutral, which means they have no charge. Where ions have a charge. What their charge is, why they have a charge, all of that you'll learn about later. So for example, we had sodium. So an atom of sodium would just be represented by Na, has no charge. If you have an ion, sodium ion is going to make a +1 charge. You do not have to write the 1 if it's a plus or a minus. You do have to write the other numbers, 2, 3, and so on. But if it's a 1, you don't have to write it. So they have a charge, and you have to write that charge. I'm going to highlight it for you. You have to write that charge as a superscript. The prefix super means up high. Think of Superman, right? He flies up in the air, up high. So superscripts are up high in the air. And so that's really important that you keep that straight. And so you guys are given some information on, ions and polyatomic ions. So there's a polyatomic ions list that you were given, and I also have a Quizlet for you to practice with. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, Quizlet is not equipped to where I can make everything like subscripts, superscripts, and so on and so forth perfectly correctly. I just won't let me. The keyboard that they have embedded in the program just doesn't let me do it. So it's really important that you are writing things exactly as they are on that list. So just thinking of a couple right off the top of my head, you may see this guy, C2O4 2 minus, or it may be written C2O4 minus 2. Where you put the sign, SIGN sign, that's the plus or the minus, it in front of or behind, for our purposes, it does not really matter. So we're not going to mess with that. But what is important and that you absolutely must do is these numbers here, these are called subscripts. Subscripts, there we go. And the prefix sub means down or below. Think of like a subway that takes you, a train that goes underground. So that means that it's down low. So it is not a C with a whole number 2 and an O with a whole number 4. This is wrong. So that's wrong and that's wrong because they need to be written as a subscript. So that's number 1. So make sure you have them written as such. And those, those little numbers 2 and 4 basically just tell you how many of each of those atoms you have. So in this instance, I have 2 carbons and 4 oxygens. That's all that tells me, but it must be a subscript. And then the other thing is that your charge has to be a superscript. And remember, superscript means up high in the air. So when I write that, I have to write it like this. Or like I said, it doesn't matter if you write the 2 or the minus. You do need to have the minus there. You can't just write the 2, but that 2 needs to be up in the air. It's like an exponent, so up high. So superscripts are like in math class, what you would call an exponent. So you have a list that's printed out for you. That list you need to be able to tell me everything on it. So if I give you the name, you need to be able to write the entire symbol for it and give me the charge. Or if I give you the charge, you need to be able to write the name. Either or, you've got to be able to go back and forth with them. Like I said, I did make a Quizlet with just those particular polyatomic ions on there. And I made it, but like I said, the keyboard is kind of, it just doesn't give me the option to do all the superscripts and subscripts. So it is there to help you sort of memorize them, but make sure that you take a look at that list and you practice writing them out. So for example, if I give you the name nitrate, then you need to know that is a capital N, a capital O, a subscript 3, and it's a -1. If I give you the symbol, let's do this one. I'll do that one. All right, you need to know that this is chlorate. What do I have here? I have 1 Cl, so I have 1 chlorine atom, and I have 3 oxygens, and the 3 is a subscript. That tells me I have 3 oxygens, and his charge is a -1. So that's what the symbol is telling me. So these are the things that you need to be real careful about how you're writing them. And so, for example, I would have some kids just write something like this. Okay, that is not correct. So make sure the things that are written as subscripts are subscripts when you write them. The things that are written as superscripts or your exponents, make sure that they are exactly as they are on the paper. This is one of the things that we have to be incredibly picky about. And sometimes kids get really frustrated and mad because they're like, oh, you're being too picky. Well, you know what? When we get further along into the year, you are going to find out why. And it's really, really, really important. So we're going to start out on the right foot, being incredibly particular about how we write things. All right, I'm not going to talk anymore about the word polyatomic versus monatomic. We'll talk all about that when I get back, or in another video. But I just wanted to go over the capital letters versus the lowercase letters and the proper ways to write the symbols. Excuse me, I got a little cough. And I've got some allergies, place where I'm staying. And then the other thing is making sure you have your subscripts and your superscripts in the right locations, and that they are incredibly important that you do not mix them up. All right, that's it. Talk to you soon.